A common misconception about practicing meditation is that you have to sit in an awkward position in order to be practicing correctly. And you may have already heard me say that that is not how I was raised up in meditation. Yes, to have your back straight helps your physiology understand that you are entering a different state, but not the sleep state. And if you kick back a little bit too far, your body will invariably go to sleep. No, not for all of us and not every time, but this is just one little tip. Be comfortable, but have an upright spine to the best of your ability. Another common misconception is that you can't have thoughts or you're not practicing meditation correctly. No matter how long it has been since I have practiced, there are bumps in the road or just shifts in practice that make it so that sometimes there are many thoughts and sometimes there are few. And what I'm taught is, and what I teach others is, what I understand from the science, is that thoughts sometimes are exacerbated by, maybe caffeine, some kind of a stimulant, maybe circumstances in a person's life, and maybe just the energies in your environment, or who knows what. Certainly, when stress is healing in the nervous system, when stress is dissolving, there will be more thoughts. Because as we know, the mind and the body are a unit, and when the body is at rest, the mind will be at rest. And when the mind rests, we can come to know peace. But when the body's at rest, it has the opportunity to repair itself. It innately knows how to heal itself. And so the mind naturally will begin to move as the stress begins to dissolve in the nervous system, because that's a movement taking place in the body. The mind perceives this, it's aware of it, and so it begins to think. And so paying attention to your thoughts, what kinds of thoughts you're having, dissecting what's going on, trying to figure out why you're having certain thoughts, is a bit like digging through your dustpan. Seriously. So don't do it. Don't waste your time. Don't waste a moment assessing or hashing out with yourself what you're thinking and why you're thinking it, or why a particular sensation has come up in your nervous system when you're practicing. It's a waste of time. There may be some other moment when it would be appropriate or useful for you to kind of begin to assess and analyze. Maybe, I don't know. I'm taught actually not, but definitely with your eyes closed during meditation, it's not useful. It actually is a distraction. So who cares what your thoughts are, how many times you have to come back to the present moment, because you were paying attention to a sensation in the body, because you were paying attention to some content, some storyline in your head, because it ultimately it doesn't matter. What matters is the coming back and the shifting of attention back to your focal point, to the meditative tool. So be comfortable, and who cares how many thoughts you have. Okay, another thing that people often have a little tricky time with is what they're supposed to be focusing on, right? So some people are very attached to having to use an audio technique, to use meditative audios. So I'm going to tell you something that may be somewhat controversial to the mind, to someone's belief system or philosophy, but is very backed up by science and is very much my own experience. And that is that you don't want to become addicted or attached to having to use audios in order to meditate. We've already talked about a little bit about the senses turning within. And when the auditory is stimulated, it can't turn within, and therefore the body can't come into a complete state of rest. Here's the other piece to that, though. If you are following an audio meditation, you will never become the master of your own mind, and you will never become masterful at keeping present. It's impossible, because you will always need to refer back to an audio in order to get to a place of body at rest, mind alert. When you get so good at practicing with your eyes closed, with whatever technique and tool gives this experience to you, where you are certain, where you're clear, where you memorize how to enter into a meditative state without having to sit for 10, 15, 20 minutes or an hour to get into a meditative state. And I'm talking about the physiological, measurable state of meditation, where the EEG machine would show it, where the brain scans would show it, where your pulse and your heart rate would show it, where you would be able to be put in that category, scientifically speaking. We know, those of us who've been practicing a long time, how to enter that state, how to hang out in that state, and what it's like to find ourselves out of that state and come back to it. I also have mentors who don't ever leave that state and continue to expand infinitely within that state. And so it's very doable and very possible for anybody to do that with the right tool, the right guidance, and the willingness to be devoted and to practice. So if you are attached to an audio, you will not know how to memorize that state when the thoughts change, the sensations change, your experience of life changes, situations, circumstances, pain factor, chaos factor, even in mundane moments. And so I implore you, if your practice has primarily been one of sitting with YouTube videos or audios for your meditation practice, to give yourself a detox from that and really step it up a notch. And if you're the kind of person who needs a challenge, then I challenge you to see if you can do this. And if you're the kind of person who runs screaming from like that competitive, challengey part of life, then I invite you to see for yourself what it's like if you are able to just sit in silence and be with yourself and be with your practice and come to a level of mastery over being able to shift your attention, shifting it back and back and back without that extra training wheel involved. Okay? Because even mantras, even the breath are training wheels. Invariably, all tools are meant to help us to become aware of that still silent aspect of self, our own presence, the presence of the peace that passes understanding. Some might even call it God. Some may call it love. I'm just going to call it the peace right now. Being able to shift your attention to the peace. I like to use the word presence, that still silent witnessing aspect. Okay? It's all the same thing. It's all the same experience for me. So I encourage you to, when you practice, sit up with the straightest spine as you can. Obviously, don't be hard on yourself if you're fading out into dreamlike experiences or falling straight asleep and you find yourself drooling or snoring. Like, that's all cool. Maybe your body's tired and you needed that. But when you come back to alertness, re-engage in your practice before getting up to go do something else for the day. Don't care about the quality of the thoughts you are having while you are practicing meditation. I know many of you have done all kinds of spiritual stuff just as I have done, and you have all of these wonderful ideas around how to ensure you're only having positive thoughts and things like that. And this is not the time and the place for all of that, you guys. That is a me over here that believes it's separate and trying to achieve certain results, and it is working hard to get them, rather than me dissolving that sense of individuality, that sense of separation, by simply bringing attention back and bringing attention back and bringing attention back. And every time you do that, you are actually unlocking and unleashing your most authentic self. And that transformation happens because you're putting your attention on the altar of God. You're putting your attention on the fire of the Holy Spirit. You're bringing yourself present here, and that which no longer serves, negative thinking, negative behaviors, the awarenesses you need to have, the universe will bring them to you. It will bring them to you. And we doubt that. We go into distrust and control mode quite a lot. But when you notice that, there's only one thing ever to do, and that's to bring your attention right back. So no worries about the thoughts you're having. No need to judge, no need to assess. In fact, that will slow down your progress. And then lastly, disconnect, unplug from the auditory. Let yourself come into a mantra-based practice, or just watching the breath, or if you can, here's the most advanced thing you can do. Just be aware of the most peaceful quality of right now and see how long you can pay your attention to that. And when your attention drifts, bring your attention back to that and continue to see how long you can be aware and aware and aware and aware. Okay? That's your homework. That's your encouragement. These are the tips. I promise you, you're going to have some fun. Let me know how it's going. Peace.